Hello, Geneva, and welcome to Officially Speaking. I'm your host, Kevin Starr. Each month, we sit down with one of our local elected or appointed officials to get the latest with your city government. Today, we're joined by Economic Development Commission Chairman Bob Mann. Bob, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Let's start off the show with those that maybe not are familiar with the EDC, kind of about what your role and responsibility is within our government structure.
Okay. Well, the EDC, the Economic Development Commission, is a commission of volunteers appointed by the mayor, approved by the city council. We've been functioning since early 2012, this time around. We have currently 9 members who are active. We've had 2 other members who were on the commission, but for one reason or other moved out or had to leave. Currently, we have myself, a retired corporate lawyer. We have a lawyer that works for a bank in terms of banking compliance. We have a commercial real estate developer. We have a local businessman, entrepreneur, restaurateur. We have a local landscape contractor. We have a Wabansie College official. And we have the director or the manager of the Geneva Commons with us. And we have 2 retail representatives as well.
That's quite a diverse group of members on the EDC. Right. How do they go about getting feedback from the business community?
Well, each of the members of the commission themselves are residents or have businesses here in Geneva, so they have a lot of personal contacts, in addition to which a lot of them have a great deal of experience in business activities and so on. They have contacts in the community, but largely we work through Kathleen Timozenko, the Director of Economic Development for the City of Geneva, and she provides us with a number of data points, documents concerning business retention, new businesses, old business, tax returns, tax receipts, I should say, the development of TIF districts and other data that she provides us to keep us up to speed.
Geneva has a great mix of retail, office, and industrial users throughout the community. Mm-hmm. How would you describe Geneva's business climate today?
I would describe Geneva's business climate as recovering from the recession in an aggressive and innovative way. I think that the business vacancies are way down, business occupancies appear to be way up. There's a lot of energy and enthusiasm in the community at large. As you can see on 3rd Street in the evenings, for example, it's full of visitors and restaurateurs and whatnot. Tax receipts seem to be going up, although they had hit a low point a few years ago. There just seems to be a real lot of vibe in the community right now. So I would say the business climate is good and positive.
And kind of going along those same lines, what would you say would be Geneva's economic assets that we have in our community, and maybe some potential threats down the road too?
Okay, I think Geneva's primary asset, of course, is its location. It's along a beautiful river. It's central to this Tri-City area, Geneva, St. Charles, and Batavia. There are a great many resources here. It's near Fermilab. It's near the redeveloping Fabian Forest area. Numerous parks, bike trails, and I think its most important asset is it's close to the train station and close to one of the world's leading communities, Chicago, with a huge population of aggressively innovative people that are looking for things to do.
And what about potential threats?
I think the basic threat to Geneva, it may be its aging infrastructure, and perhaps a little bit the question of its lack of forward-looking redevelopment ideas. The river is a great asset, but it needs to be protected, it needs to be utilized. The greatest threat, I think, to Geneva's future competitiveness is the lack of a public civic space, the lack of public amenities such as restroom facilities. There is a limited amount of parking, and some of the businesses appear to be aging somewhat and maybe need to be revitalized.
I know a topic that has just kind of started sweeping the Chicago area is the AirBNB, and I know that the Economic Development Commission has had some preliminary discussions about this. Mm-hmm. Can you summarize for us some of those initial discussions with the Commission?
Yes, I think traditional bed and breakfasts have not taken hold here in Geneva. There's been from time to time efforts by individual families or businesses to create one, and they don't seem to go anywhere and usually meet a considerable amount of public opposition, at least the last one did. The Airbnb is a different phenomenon. The Airbnb, of course, as you know, is a matter of people using their own homes to house transient visitors and guests and so on. I think that's an issue that needs to be addressed more completely by the City Council and by the city, because we've had some preliminary indications that there's Airbnb controversies. People suddenly finding that there are visitors in their local residential communities that aren't, necessarily known to them, and that there seems to be some commercial exploitation of that process. In 1926, the U.S. Supreme Court approved, in a case involving the village of Euclid, Ohio, the idea of zoning. And zoning has a great deal of protective aspects, as you know. And a lot of communities and residences tend to rely on zoning to protect their environment and are not particularly interested in having businesses suddenly crop up next to them. So I think it's an area the city really needs to take a hard look at. Also, I think it's a source of potential taxation and revenue development that isn't currently being utilized. So it's something that the Economic Development Commission is quite interested in.
Another issue that the EDC has been actively involved in, has even made a recommendation to the City Council, is that about the Central Business District.
Yeah.
And I know that that's an issue that you've been quite passionate about. Can you summarize what that concept would look like and just share some of your own thoughts?
Yeah, the Economic Development Commission actually was created in 2012 in response to a decision made by the Geneva City Council at one of its Committee of the Whole meetings, in which they asked the EDC to look into the creation of a business district. In 2005, the state of Illinois amended its existing Business District Act to allow for the development of projects within downtown business districts in order to revitalize downtown business, prevent them from going into decay, prevent crime from developing around abandoned buildings and whatnot, and authorize local communities to impose a modest sales tax in order to fund that. So the EDC did look into that. We hired a consultant to look into the eligibility. They determined we were eligible because mainly of our aging infrastructure in the downtown area, and made recommendations on the type of projects that could be developed. Ultimately, I think the project has failed for lack of complete support on the part of the City Council at the request of some prominent business owners around here. I personally believe that the Geneva's downtown business district is an extraordinarily valuable asset. It generates a lot of sales tax revenues, which help pay for city services, obviously. 70% of those sales taxes are paid by visitors. If the city does not make a downtown shopping experience more desirable for particularly outside businesses, we're going to lose that revenue eventually. And there is a big risk of Geneva falling into disrepair and disregard. So I personally think that the sales tax idea is a painless way of providing some way to improve and to renovate the downtown area that needs to be exploited. I'm hopeful that sometime in the future that will be revisited.
Are there any other issues that the Economic Development Commission might be tackling in the future that you think our audience might be interested in?
Well, I think one of the things that we're going to be tackling is ongoing business development within the downtown area, particularly with what you might call entrepreneurial businesses. A number of organizations in this area, not necessarily specific to Geneva, have been set up in recent years to help entrepreneurs, creative entrepreneurs, new business starters, and so on, including 25 North over here recently. And I think that we're going to be very interested in finding ways in which Geneva can encourage the development of new businesses, creative new businesses, creates ways in which people can use their own talents to start new businesses that will increase employment, increase business activity in the downtown. I think that's one thing we really want to take a look at. Another things that we're looking at is the development of the east side, particularly along the State Street corridor. There's a TIF district in place there, and we're interested in how that's going to come out and what they're going to develop into eventually, because I think that's an asset in coming for Geneva. It would expand it. The southeast side industrial development area is another area of concern with the EDC. We'd like to see that developed in a positive and aggressive way. to, again, improve the business situation in Geneva.
And for those that maybe want to get more information about the Economic Development Commission, can you share with us when your meetings are held and where they can find more information about your group?
Okay, our meetings are held right here in the City Council chambers. We regularly meet once every quarter, every 2 or 3 months, usually the second Thursday of the month in which ends the quarter. And we're here usually at 8 o'clock till 9 o'clock, or they're open meetings, and they're published on the Geneva City website, including the biographies of the commissioners and the agenda for the meetings and basically the purposes of the commission. So that's where you can find more information.
That is all the time we have for Officially Speaking. I'd like to thank Bob Mann for his time and insight into the Economic Development Commission.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
We also thank you for watching. We hope to tune in again next month to get the official word from your elected and appointed officials.